Ready.
Are you ready?
Are you ready for
Are you
love?
ready for love?
Yes, I am. Oh, yes.
Hi, I'm Catherine, and that little chicken nugget sitting over there is Rosie
Hi.
Posey. Welcome to our
26
podcast.
to life, because after 26 years, we have been friends for longer than life sentence. Whoa.
You know I have to make silly faces because otherwise I do it with you. I've realised every time now that I do it.
You
I
just
don't mean to,
say
and
it
I
with
can't.
you.
So now I have to.
Yeah, I mean, I do that as well.
Rosie's telling us a story. We've been recording. How long was my one? Hour and a half, 2 hours.
It was a good one.
So
it was a good one. I enjoyed it. Catherine's going to snack and then knit, and I'm just going to tell the story. I feel like you're going to know this one, but know it in the sense of like you're aware of it, but whether or not you know all of the details of it.
Shannon Matthews.
Shut up. How did you know that?
I just literally took a guess.
You're lying. You saw my Google Doc. Do you know it?
No,
I think that you will once I'm telling you it. But yeah, so what's the word? Do that whole thing with the, be careful. Yeah,
be careful.
do it.
You have been warned.
Yeah, this involves
murder, rape, kidnap, torture, drug use, suicide.
It could, you know. I'll just delete as appropriate when I'm editing.
Not just, yeah.
Imagine.
Warning, it also involves Catherine eating.
Yeah, oh God.
Which is probably the grossest part,
sure.
yeah.
For sure. Okay, are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay, so, Tuesday, 19th of February, 2008. So not that long ago. How old were we? Like 4? Just kidding, we were 13. But... What? What are you laughing at?
You just did a whole little monologue with yourself there. I didn't even have a chance.
You had a mouthful. I couldn't wait for the banter. So, police receive a call from a Shannon Matthews. She sounds frantic and she says her daughter hasn't returned home from school. She should have left school at 3:10 and it was already like 6:30 in the evening and she hadn't got home. What?
Yeah.
What?
I would have... No way. Not in a million years.
Well, apparently she had called the school beforehand to see, because they'd apparently been going to the swimming pool for a swim lesson. And so she'd called the school to make sure that the coach had got back okay, like maybe they're in traffic or something like that. But when she found out that the coach had got back, she went to the neighbour's house and they kind of like went out looking for her. But it wasn't until around 6:30, I think, that she actually called the police and reported her missing.
No, never. Not in a million
How
years,
quickly
not
would
at
you
all.
call police if you're
What time did you say
like
she finished
3:10?
school? Okay, so 3:10. Give him 10-15 minutes to like mess around with his friends. Get home. Okay, give the bus some delays. 40 minutes. 4 o'clock. 4 o'clock. I call the school. They're like, no, everything finished fine. Should be home right 4. Okay, get to 4:30. Now I'm on the phone to my mum and my dad, and I'm like, we're going out looking. I'll have called all his friends and everything by 4:30. Hello, can you be quiet, please? Thank you. He's just looking at me now like, let me get cheese.
He does not want that dairy-free treat.
5 o'clock. 5 o'clock.
Okay. Well, I mean, she wasn't far off. Give the lady a break.
No, I'm giving her a break. I just think I'm...
No, I mean, I would be with you.
I think it depends on the situation. Like, firstly, 2008.
You don't have mobile phones.
Not everyone had phones. No. And not like we do now.
No.
Like, I can track Leo, all of that stuff. But then also, if all of his... It would depend on what his friend said. If it was like, oh, actually, I saw him getting off the bus with someone weird, or I saw him getting on the bus... and then I saw him getting off the bus at your stop, and then he hasn't made it home. Like, yeah, I'm going nuts.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. But she was 9 years old, so it...
What?
She was 9! Yeah! How old did you think she was? You didn't even let me get to that. She was 9. Yeah, she was just a sweet baby, wasn't she, really?
I'd have called the police at 15 minutes past 3.
Of course you would.
my god! I just sprayed fake cheese everywhere.
I was not expecting that reaction, but I'm here for it. So they said that Shannon was a super sweet girl. She was always smiling. She was always happy.
Of course she was. She'd just been born.
Nothing to be sad about. But she and her bestie Megan, they did used to get bullied a little bit, but it just seemed like normal kid stuff, like girls being mean to each other about the way they did their hair, the way they used to dress. But the thing is that they specifically mentioned her hair, but she had her hair in like this little front fringe, a scrunchie, and a high ponytail, and I thought, oh my god, that's super stylish. I love that for me. No?
You would not suit that.
Okay, well, no. Not anymore, but when I was 9.
I don't know. I don't remember us ever having that.
No, I mean, it's a little bit, I don't know, actually.
No, I don't mean us ever having like, oh, what's your hair like that?
Well, no, but maybe when you think of these things, I don't know, that is what I would...
Did we have that?
I was definitely bullied when I was in secondary school. Not so much...
But that's a
yeah, not so much primary school.
Primary? No. I don't remember.
No, we had quite a cute, sweet, like innocent primary school, didn't we?
Yeah. I hate that you were bullied at secondary school.
It is what it is. I am the person I am today because of it.
Not a serial killer. Take notes,
not
people.
Not a serial killer. So they were in a place called Dewsbury, which is Yorkshire. And I don't really know much about Dewsbury, but what I know about where they live is that they keep on describing it as an estate. So I think that it was quite kind of like a poor area, but it was where everyone knew everyone. I feel like that's how all of my stories start, is that everyone knew everyone. Like, it always happens in these close-knit communities.
Yeah, you always look into episodes where it's like that, and like no. You look into that kind of bit of the episodes, and when you asked me earlier, like, what's the area like? I was like,
who gives a fuck?
Why would I care?
I do. I care.
I'm not moving there.
But because of this close-knit community, they had a community centre, and so as soon as anyone heard that Shannon Matthews was missing, they decided to open the community centre all night and keep the lights on in case she decided to come home. But the weather was absolutely horrendous. It was supposed to be one of the coldest nights of the year. It was raining. It was freezing. No 9-year-old would want to be out in weather like that, you know?
When was this?
This was February, so it was, Baltic. And in Yorkshire as well. It's like, what? No, we don't.
It's rainy, isn't it? Let's be honest.
No, it's
rainy.
It's
calm down.
Fucking Baltic. And by midnight, she still wasn't home. So the following day, the 20th of Feb, police had checked everywhere they thought that she would have gone herself. So, like, checking her friend's house, checking parks, things like that. But no one had seen Shannon for 16 hours at this point, and there had been not one positive sighting of Shannon after she left the school gates. So, that...
Did they not immediately jump to she was kidnapped?
Yeah, pretty much. Well, no, I mean, at first they were thinking... So, there's... On the local news the next day, apparently Shannon had told her friends that she was planning to run away, but I never ever saw anything else of that, and I don't think anyone actually took it seriously, but I think that they...
Do you know what that is? A salacious headline.
A salacious head. Amen. I feel like that's only gonna... People are only gonna understand what we're talking about if they listen to the previous episode.
And if they haven't, then why are they here? True. Honestly, what are you doing with your life? If you've only just found us from this episode...
Okay, calm down. Calm down. Calm.
Go and listen to the other ones because you will never stick around.
I'm telling a story here. So, it does get escalated to the Homicide and Major Inquiry Team, which are also responsible for kidnaps and abductions. They put as many resources as possible into the search for Shannon. There are more than 250 police officers and pretty much the whole community that are coming together and searching for her. They're in back gardens, they're in sheds, they're even looking in bins, lakes, ponds. There's footage of people climbing up scaffolding, building sites, literally everywhere, trying to find Shannon or some indication that Shannon had been there. After 24 hours, the story was on the local BBC News, like I said, but then loads of people were saying that she wasn't the type to roam around or hang around.
Can I just say something? I've never heard this.
Really? I know, but again, I think when we get to the end, you will recognise it.
Okay, maybe. But
Mhm.
so far, don't
Okay,
have to
fair
worry.
enough. That's good. So loads of people were saying that she wasn't the type to roam around or hang on the streets after school. She really just had her one best friend, and they just went to school and straight back home again. They didn't. It what like you know that there are some kids that do hang around on like
No, they're
outside.
9.
Well,
What
yeah,
you do?
that's so true. That's
You're 9.
so true. And I mean, I was never that kid. Even when I was like 16, I never hung out outside
Where
shops.
did we go at 9? The park?
Yeah,
With
yeah.
permission?
And it was at the end of your road.
With an adult
Yeah,
sat there?
yeah. No, 100%. Yeah,
No.
you're right. You're totally right. But also, like I said, everyone knew everyone in this estate. So how on earth could she have gone missing in an estate where everyone knows each other? You know, like everyone recognizes Shannon. She goes to a local primary school. All of her kids' friends and parents live in that same area. How
How far is the school?
Oh, I don't actually know. But I mean, it was walking distance, so it couldn't have been that far because she has like 6 siblings, and apparently one of them would come and pick her up all the time. You know,
So it's all really close.
Yeah.
She doesn't have to do any travelling.
No, exactly. But then that evening, news of Shannon's disappearance spreads, and the whole town is full of news trucks. It's on the national news. There are basically trucks and reporters all along Shannon's street. But because they didn't know the circumstances of Shannon's disappearance, they told Karen to let the police deal with the media and was advised not to talk to the press. Because obviously, if she had been kidnapped and she starts talking on to the press saying God knows what, a kidnapper who might be wanting to get in contact, I don't know, it could just jeopardize the investigation, I guess. That's
Really?
apparently
That's weird.
apparently what the police had said. Go on.
Because usually they say, make a statement, make an appeal for your child to be returned safely. Although I've never really understood that, because has it ever been a thing where the kidnappers are like, do you know what, I do feel really bad now that this mum's on TV?
You know what? I don't know, but I'm gonna Google, and if there is, that's gonna be my next story.
I want to know, like, why. I kind of feel like, guys, you keep trying it. So far, it's.
But I mean,
worked.
I
think
guess
we
you
should-
appeal, not necessarily that they're just going to give them back because they feel bad, but if you appeal to them, if they are holding them captive, and you appeal to them saying, "Oh, that's my darling sweet angel," then they probably will maybe be nicer to the kid that they've abducted. Do you know?
They're a freaking
Okay,
doctor. Why are we giving them this
I'm
much
not a
credit?
psychologist. I don't know what to tell you. But anyway, despite all of that,
Neither am I.
at 9 p.m. that night, Shannon's mum, Karen, comes out of the house for the first time since Shannon went missing and spoke directly to the news, even though the police had told her not to. But anyway, she said, "Shannon, if you're out there, please come home. We love you. If someone has her, please bring her home safe." Just basically appealing to Shannon.
Do you think that's weird that she went against what the police said?
I think so, but then the liaison officer went and shouted at her and was like, "Why did you do that? I literally told you not to do that." And Shannon was like, "I'm sorry, please don't shout at me." So
Do you mean Karen?
yeah, she was like, "I'm sorry, please don't shout at me." So I mean, you're probably desperate. Your child's gone missing. Would you be able to sit in the house not doing anything?
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Never.
That's what I thought.
Never. You can't. What am I sitting here doing?
Exactly. So I don't know. There was because the police hadn't explicitly said to everybody like, "Oh, Shannon's mum's not supposed to be making a statement." Nobody really thought much of it at the time because they were like, "Yeah, it's just my mum who's making."
Shannon's mum did it.
Oh my god, you've heard this story before?
Was that right?
So, so no one really thought.
I thought you were about to be so mad at me then.
It wouldn't be the first time. So Karen had big bags under her eyes. She'd obviously been crying. She looked pretty rough, and everyone just felt really bad for her. There were people saying, like on this TV show that I was watching about it, they were saying that they were watching her talk about Shannon, and they were watching at home and crying themselves because their heart was just like bleeding for her. The search continued into the third day, and this included helicopters, horses, dogs. They even stopped thousands of passing cars to ask if anyone had seen her. So literally just traffic. They weren't searching cars or anything at this point. They were just showing the pictures and asking people if they'd seen anything. There are apparently 22 specially trained police cadaver dogs in the UK, and they deployed 18 of them into people's lofts, people's gardens, all around parks, like everywhere. This was supposed to be the biggest operation since the Yorkshire Ripper in this area.
Wow. Should we not get more police dogs trained up, like cadaver ones?
I mean, this is a 2008, so I don't know if there is more since then.
No, but what I mean is,
But then
plenty of doggies.
well,
that
yeah,
need
but
homes,
I mean, 22. How often do you think they're used?
well, they could be used more.
That's so true. Yeah.
You know, like keep them busy.
Yeah, that's true. I'm gonna.
Not like this. These layabouts. Do you hear that? Dogs working for their keep.
You know
You
what?
hear that? Yeah, they only get fed if they find dead people. What do you
Arlo's
find?
a very effective guard dog. You should give him more credit.
Do you know the mattress that I was waiting for? This bozo was asleep. They thought I wasn't in and they've delivered it to a neighbour. He didn't notice two men turn up at the door with a freaking mattress. Idiot.
Delivered it to a neighbour. I'd be so bad if my neighbour, somebody knocked on the door and asked me to take in a mattress for my neighbour. I'd be fuming.
We're like,
Definitely not.
Well, I fortunately have nicer neighbours than you. But also, don't tell me about a good guard dog, because two men standing at our front door with a mattress, and Arlo thought, nah, well, can't bother.
Well, you obviously knew that it was a mattress, people. There was no threat. Anyway, they pretty much had no idea what had happened, so they looked into every single possibility. When a child goes missing, pretty much the first thing is to... You're supposed to answer.
What? Oh, no. Amber Alert it. Speak to the
Look into
parents.
the family.
Put a big bowl over the top.
Why
of the
do you
country
literally
so
hate me?
it out.
So you're all quick to say, oh, it's the mum, it's the doctor, kill them, meh, meh, meh. Yeah, when I ask you a genuine question, you're like, I don't know, put a big bowl over the top. Like Simpsons movie. What's your problem? Why? Can you give me something? You're so annoying. You know what? I'm not even going to interact with you anymore. So they try and clear the family and get as much info as possible from them all.
I did say talk to the parents.
Talk to the parents. I don't know.
You'd already listed so many things that they'd done that I disagreed with, so I was like, surely the bowl would have been put down hours ago.
There was no bowl. No bowl. So, Karen Matthews was interviewed for more than 6 hours. They wanted to find out who Shannon was, who her friends were, what she liked doing, what her family life was like. Karen basically said family life was normal, like there was nothing wrong. This also included searching 14 premises with connections to Shannon and her family for any clues to her disappearance. The family home was searched, Shannon's bedroom, basically taking in any items that could be of relevance. They took in school books and collected composites of Shannon's fingerprints and made a whole DNA profile. So obviously if a body was found or they did find a crime scene, they'd be able to determine whether or not Shannon had actually been there.
Can I ask you a question now? You haven't mentioned anything about a dad.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no, I'll come.
Oh, you haven't come to it. Yeah.
Kind of.
Cool.
Things to happen a lot, doesn't it? As well as this, they started to build up a detailed profile of Shannon's family, basically creating a whole family tree. Someone actually likened it to a family forest because they had such a huge extended family. Karen, Shannon's mum, was one of 7 kids, and Karen herself had 7 kids to 5 different fathers. And so it was complicated to map everyone's relations and identifying everyone within the family circle. Because obviously, if you've got one daughter with one dad and another daughter with another dad, that already doubles like all the extended family that could be involved, you know?
Yeah.
But they collect names, they collect addresses, and they start looking into everyone. More than 72 hours passed, and Shannon's disappearance is pretty much still a complete mystery. No leads, there's no evidence, there's no sightings. It's like she vanished into thin air. There was no discovery of her belongings, her clothes. They didn't find her, like she'd gone swimming, right? So she would have had a swim bag. They didn't find that. They didn't find anything at all. She was.
And the school's not come forward and been like, oh, actually, Uncle Billy Bob picked her up on that day. Nothing's like come out.
Nope. She wasn't seen getting into any cars. No one reported seeing anyone odd within the areas. Like, how could she have possibly disappeared? It was mind-boggling. Nobody knew what could have happened. So the police decide to release the only material evidence that they have, and that's the CCTV footage of Shannon just before she disappeared from the swimming lesson at the pool. So that day she had gone missing. She'd been at school. They'd taken them to the pool for the swim lesson. She and her best friend had paired up as they always do, had their lesson, and then they all got onto the coach to go home. And it was around this time that they started talking about the CCTV footage, and they're talking to her best friend Megan, that she actually remembered something important. So the first thing was that there was no one there waiting to pick Shannon up. And Megan said that Shannon had been told that her brother was going to go pick her up. Like I said, sometimes her brother would come and pick her up. She would say, oh, your mum's picking you up today. Your brother's picking you up today. You know, that kind of thing. So she knew who to expect at the school gates. But no one was there waiting for her. And usually if they said that someone was going to be there, there would be someone there waiting. But this time there was no one. But another thing was that she had remembered Shannon. So when she was doing this little interview, she was just such a sweet little 9-year-old girl. But when she was doing this interview, she said that she remembers that Shannon was walking down the road when she should have been walking up the road. They basically said she was walking in the wrong direction, and she'd also said that she never ever walked home by herself. So later on, they actually asked.
She doesn't know how to get
They
home.
actually asked Megan to make a media appeal, and this sweet 9-year-old was crying, and she was asking them to call and tell us where her best friend is, and she was saying that she misses her and how sad she was. It was just heartbreaking, and you forget how small.
Can you imagine me doing it for you when we were 9? Excuse me, but you took my best friend, and he is so annoying, but she's the only one I've got.
And no one else knows how to play spies with me.
And yeah, she looks like me, but not like me. She's like exactly the same. Like if you're talking and she knows the things that I know, that's her.
At 9 years old.
And if you go to poke her in the eye, she'll cry. And she's got
I'm mad.
And she's got a little cross-shaped skirt.
You've gone too far now. You've gone too far. But I forget how small 9-year-olds actually are. They're such small babies. They're not even fully formed human beings, you know? Like, they're just a tiny little human. Oh, no. I feel bad.
And they often don't have their front teeth because the teeth fall out around that age, so then they don't make
Exactly.
and then they don't know what's going
Just
on.
don't know what the hell is going on. But I was thinking 9 years old. I don't know what I was thinking. I was thinking like basically a teenager, and then I watched this video of this small girl just crying for her bestie, and I was like, oh my god, this was actually a baby. What the heck? Yeah. But by this point,
I did say that
you
to
did
you.
say she should have been in a pram, and I should have believed you. By this point, police think that she had to have been snatched from the streets. If she was hiding, they would have found her already. And by day 5, everyone thought that she was dead. So they were referring to a database called Catchem, and it holds all data relating to every child murder in the UK since 1960. That's Catchem. What it says, Catchem.
That is the worst name in the world. You're making them sound like
I know,
Pokemon.
but have you ever heard of this before? I'd never heard of this being used, but every single...
Are we catching the kids?
Can you let me... Do you even know what it is? Did you even let me explain what the hell it was? You didn't even hear me You didn't know.
I did. You said it was a database where they have all the child murders from the 60s.
Since the 60s.
From the 60s, since the 60s.
It's not the same thing. But in this database, 76% of cases where a child was abducted for sexual purposes were found dead within 6 hours. 76%. Within 12 hours, 96% were found dead. And within 3 days, 100% of those children were found dead. That's terrifying. Go on, one.
So in that database, is that just children who've gone missing or children who
This
died?
is where a child was abducted for sexual motives.
Okay.
And so with this information, they start looking into the registered sex offenders within the area. And I was shocked. So within a 20-mile radius, how many sex offenders do you think were in this area?
I don't even want to know.
20-mile radius.
3,000.
Okay, actually, that's not that many then. It was 1,400. But that's still a lot.
No, that's still
so much. Like, that's... I think I did the math right, but that's more than one per square mile. So... And I think that's not right. I don't think I've done that math right.
20 miles.
20-mile radius.
Yeah. How do you find that in
I honestly don't know.
If it's...
Anyway, 1,400 was a huge amount.
That is a lot.
And that was within a 20-mile radius of Shannon's home. But not only were those living in that area, but there were also many visiting, because there were certain places in the area that were holding counselling for sex offenders, which brought even more sex offenders into that area around the time that Shannon went missing. What the fuck? I know.
By all means, come and use our local village hall. Yeah, the one that we run. Yes, the one that daycare in the morning and karate after you guys. But feel free to use it in between.
The one that we literally host brownies and rainbows and scouts in. Like,
come on in.
Yeah, I feel like there needs to be a better system for that. But anyway, the community knew what the police were doing, and so they thus uncovered hundreds of thousands of paedophiles within the area. So everyone knew who were sex offenders. But
good. Should you not?
Well, yeah. Anyway? I mean, they are on the list, but obviously you're not going to just.
Can't we have like a sign on the door?
Well, yeah, like a big red X. I don't know. But there were lots of people on the register that had direct links to Shannon's family, but that also lived within close proximity to her and her family too. So they started attempting to trace and eliminate all of the sex offenders within this area. And by March 4th, 1/10 of the Yorkshire Police Force are looking for Shannon. So this is a huge operation. Like I said, the biggest since the Yorkshire Ripper. They're trying to trace and eliminate 1,400 sex offenders minimum. You know, that's
plus all the
visiting ones, plus anyone else that had been in the area that was acting suspicious, plus Shannon's family. They were doing so much, and also obviously actively searching for her. Go on.
Those are also only the sex offenders and paedophiles who have committed before. There's also going to be people who have never done anything before, who, like, you know, first time for everyone.
Exactly. So on March 1st, day 11. So March 1st, day 11, the Sun newspaper offers a £20,000 reward for any information leading to finding Shannon. Karen then appeared on national TV. She was pretty calm and collected, but some people said that she spoke too carefully and maybe a little bit too deliberately. And she also had like a little teddy of Shannon's that was, I mean, it was quite a famous thing, like a picture that was going around of Karen with this little teddy appealing for information. So now this is where my timeline gets a little bit foggy. I feel like there are some people that have said one thing and some that have said another in terms of when things have happened. But it was around this time that people start looking into Karen, and people start looking into Karen's boyfriend, Craig. So Karen said in one of her TV appearances, so I'm not sure if it was this one, or if I'm not sure if it was later down the line, but she basically says that she believes that Shannon was abducted by someone that she knows, and that it was someone that would have known Shannon, that would have known Karen, and she felt suspicious of everyone. She said that she can't trust anyone, and people start really reading into this and thinking, who is she referring to? Was this a slip? Was this purposeful? It was just a really odd statement to make, considering the police had never released any information like that, you know? So after this, the rumours start spreading.
Do you think that's weird? To say, I think it must have been someone that they knew.
I think that the statistically, it would be someone, you know, it is usually someone that, you know, that would take or harm a child. But to say that without any prompt, when the police, I mean, I would be so, although I would want to be doing as much as I can to help the investigation, I would also be really conscious of hindering and jeopardizing the investigation at the same time. So if the police have never said anything like that, I wouldn't take it upon myself to bring that up, you know?
No, I do get that. I just don't think it's the most bizarre thing. Like, you kind of think if someone manages to get your child to go with them, then it's likely your child. And I can imagine feeling as a parent like, oh my God, if it's statistically likely somebody that I know or that they know, then who the frick do I trust? Like, I can't trust anyone.
No, it's true. No, you're completely right. You are completely right. And in a time like this, you probably are thinking of everything. You're thinking of the worst case scenarios. You're thinking of, or you're looking at absolutely everyone. And so it was around this time as well that Shannon's estranged biological father, Leon Rose, he also made an appeal for information as to Shannon's whereabouts. He said he didn't want to talk too much and he didn't give too many interviews, but he was out every single day handing out leaflets, driving around, asking everyone if they knew anything about Shannon. He said that he had no idea as to what could have happened, but the police said that he was not a suspect. They said they looked into him, they looked into his whereabouts around the time that Shannon went missing, and they pretty much cleared him. But one thing that did come up was that when they had searched Shannon's room, they had found that she had written on the wall a little note to say that she wanted to live with her dad. And they brought this up to him in one of his interviews, and he said, well, come home and we can sort this out. If you want to live, if you've run away because you want to live with your dad, come home, we'll sort it out. Like, I want to see you again, you know? But although some people saw this as quite sweet that she obviously wanted to live with her dad, some others thought that this pointed at the fact that there might have been issues within her home life with her mother, and that there might have been a little bit of concern around this. So that's when the police start looking into Craig Meehan, Karen's boyfriend, who was living in the house at the time. So he was pretty high on the suspect list. He was 22 years old, and Shannon's mum, I'm pretty sure, was like 33, 34. Okay. Which I'm just going to reserve judgment. He came across as an awkward guy, but they said that he didn't really seem like the sharpest tool in the shed. They weren't like an obvious couple, but there was this interview where they're talking and they're standing outside the front of the house, and they're talking about something, and Karen like goes in and leans in and kisses his neck, and it's just like, I don't know, it gives me like a weird, gross, cringy vibe. Like, you're literally
they're having about
your missing child. Yeah, very weird, very weird.
That's the weird.
Yeah, I don't know. I just got a bit weird vibe from both of them when I was watching this. Anyway, so day 19th, on the 9th of March, the newspapers actually publish about Craig's relationship with Shannon, accusing him of being violent to Shannon and to the other kids. full disclosure, I couldn't find anything about any of the other kids, considering there were 6 other kids in the house. I didn't know any of their names, any of their ages, so I assume they were
I think
all,
they
yeah,
did.
I assume that they were all underage. They were all considered minors, and so they've all been protected, and there's pretty much no information out there about them, which is very great that they are all protected.
Can go and crack on with their lives and
No,
do their
exactly. They don't have to be harassed every minute of every day. But the next day, Craig gives a full TV interview, and they say, "Have you ever hurt a child? No. Were you ever cruel to Shannon? No." Yada yada yada, just denying absolutely everything as per usual. On the 11th of March, the community pulled together and organised a walk to commemorate 3 weeks since Shannon's disappearance. But Craig and Karen are retreating from the public eye. They said that they don't want to go to the walk, which, I mean, there's a part of me that understands, because maybe you're tired of it, maybe it's overwhelming and overstimulating, but then also just be out there for your kids, like, She just said that she didn't want to.
Yeah, no, I don't turn up for a full freaking TV interview to talk about how you didn't abuse the child, but you're not going to turn up for the vigil or the walk or all of that for the baby
and
who's
all
missing,
of these people are coming out for the walk. Everyone in the community. There are like hundreds of people walking along the streets. She should be there leading it. But some of her friends go to her and they talk her into coming out and being on the walk, and then everything seemed fine when she was finally out and participating. But the accusations against Craig are ongoing. They keep on going back to the press. They saying that the kids had said that Craig was hitting Shannon, but Karen keeps on denying it. Karen's parents say that they had been trying to convince her to leave Craig for ages, and they'd been together for 4 years. So Craig was actually 18 when they got together, and she must have been like 29, 30. But within those years, there had been even more arguments. There'd been family bust-ups. They didn't approve of their relationship at all. But he continued to deny everything. He said that everything was lies. He'd never laid a finger on her. And Karen continued to defend him as well. But something wasn't right. Now that the media had started this whole story, people started looking more and more into Karen and Craig, into their relationship. People started questioning their sincerity. Even those that were closest to her started to become slightly more suspicious. So before Shannon went missing, Karen's house was known as the party house. People were in and out all the time, at all hours. They would obviously have people over for drinks. They would have music playing. It was kind of like an open door policy, it seemed. But nothing seemed to change even after Shannon went missing. And they were still having people round. They were still drinking until all hours. They were still very much that kind of house. And again, I couldn't find anything about how many kids would be home at this time. But if they're all minors, like, why? Yeah,
go to bed.
Go to bed and just protect your children. I don't know. I got nothing. There was another time they had another interview and they were calm and collected, and it wasn't until Karen and Craig were asked about their relationship that they got emotional, and she was saying, "He's my rock," and they actually then started crying, but not about when they were talking about Shannon or any of the other fact that their daughter had gone missing or anything like that, but
when they were talking about each other.
That's when they started crying. So even the family liaison officers had doubts. There were inconsistencies in their stories. They seemed unconcerned about their daughter's disappearance. They didn't really ask about the progress of the investigation.
Sorry, question. You're saying their daughters. Are you talking about Karen and Craig, or Karen and her biological dad?
So Karen, Craig was referred to Shannon as his daughter throughout. Although he was a stepdad, he said that he saw her as a daughter. I guess that if she's 9, he would have been in her life from when she was like 5. So I think.
And if you're a good stepdad, I get that.
But no, they keep on referring to them as their daughter. So I'm just doing the same essentially. And the family liaison officers were always interacting with Craig and Shannon pretty much together because they were 2 peas in a pod.
Inseparable.
Inseparable. They said that, yeah, so she said that they never really worried about the progress of the investigation. They didn't ask about how things were moving along. Again, I just don't. I know that you and I we would be hot on it, and we would be asking for updates every single day. We would be asking about, what have you done this? Have you looked into that? Have you spoken to this person? What about this? Where's this person?
I would be a detective
100%.
now.
But if they are from, I'm thinking if they're from a very working class family, maybe they don't know that they can ask those things. I don't know what their kind of experience is like with police and these kinds of investigations. You know, I don't know. We're really into true crime, so we know that you can push for information and you can ask these questions.
I just don't know how my life goes on. Like, what is she doing? What are you doing every single day other than just crying and missing your child and looking for her? Like, what are you doing? My day would consist of wake up in the morning, go and take my kids to school, go and find Shannon, pick my kids up from school, go and find Shannon. If people are in my house, it's because they're looking after my kids while I go and find Shannon. Like, that's all your life is. So to me, this whole like, Craig and party and I'd be like, honestly, drinking I understand. But,
no, I'm with you. But it gets weirder. So officers reported that there were news teams out filming outside Karen's house, and they could see Karen on the inside of her house watching the TV and actually watching the live feed on the TV of them filming her house, and they were just laughing about the fact that they were being filmed and they could see themselves on the TV at the time that they were watching themselves on the TV. Very weird. There was another time when a journalist visited. There was no one at the house, but he'd been there a couple of times. Well, there was nobody answered the door, but he'd been there a few times. He was quite close with the family at this point. So he knew that the door was usually open. So he let himself in and he shouts up because he's like, well, where is everyone if they're not in the house? And as he goes in, Karen jumps out from behind the door, shouts boo, and goes to tickle him.
To a journalist.
And like that's come to interview and continue the publicity surrounding your missing child. And she's like playing games and acting.
Oh, no, she's weird. No. Don't like her.
Very strange.
Told you she was dodgy. Told you she should have called me before 6:30.
She's interviewed again, and she reiterates her comments from the previous press conference, saying that someone she knows is holding her. She's saying quite confidently she's out there somewhere in a nice, warm environment, but the person who has her won't come forward. She was convinced that she was well and alive. She was very confidently saying these things. She was just saying,
if this woman has staged all of this for the attention, I'm going to punch
her in the
too. Nose.
But there was no evidence linking Karen to Shannon's disappearance. Despite all the suspicions, there was nothing that would have indicated that Karen had anything to do with it. She was just acting really strange. Go on.
Did we ever discuss, like, where she was for those hours? Like, was that ever mentioned, or do we not know at this point? Like, between Shannon finishing school and her calling the police, you've never told me where she was.
Well, I said that she had called the school to say she had gone.
Then she'd gone to her friends or neighbours. They've looked for her, but we don't know. Okay, that's fine. I just needed to double check I wasn't.
Yeah, no one had. There wasn't. It didn't really seem pertinent to the case, and no one had really mentioned it in anything that I'd seen. So on day 22, Wednesday, 12th of March, the Sun newspaper increases the reward to £50,000, and the behaviour.
You know it's problematic when the best behaviour comes from the Sun newspaper.
When we actually are rooting for the Sun. Oh, God. But the behaviour of the family is still raising suspicions. There's too many smiles. There's like lots of, are they just doing this for the cameras? People were saying that when they were out and about, they were obviously sad and morose and, you know, putting on their sad faces. But then when they were in the house, they were quite relaxed. They were laughing. They'd be going out for cigarettes. You know, they were chatting. And I know that, so this will happen 9 months after Madeleine McCann went missing. And somebody at one point said to Karen, about Madeleine McCann and Jerry and Kate. And Karen said, "We're nothing like them. They are snobs, they are celebrities, and they have all the money." And for someone who's going through the same thing, who's in the same position, mother to mother, in this traumatic period of your life where your daughter has gone missing, you'd think that you'd have a little bit more compassion, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. I mean, I will struggle to always have compassion for Madeleine McCann's parents because of what they did. But I think to be annoyed at them about the fact that they're snobs and they've got money is not the pertinent thing. Like, be annoyed that it's like, okay, you left your kid overnight in a hotel by herself when she was 3. Something terrible happened. All I did was send my kid to school.
yeah. Yeah.
Like, you can be, I get being annoyed at that. I get feeling angry. I get feeling frustrated. It's unfair, and it's like, but to be like, they've got money. I don't care about money at this point. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. And at one point, it was said that someone in the Matthews family actually approached the McCann Foundation asking for money to support the cause, to support the search. They're not sure who it was. It was never disclosed who it was. I don't know if they ever found out who it was, but they basically asked for some financial support, and it got quite far up in the McCann Foundation, and they were quite suspicious of the nature of this approach, of how they were asking for it, and so they didn't provide any money, but it obviously was leaked and people started talking about it. So again, it was just like
And what was the money
they were saying
for?
that
Did they ever
they were
say,
saying
like,
it was to go towards, searches and the community searches and just keeping men on the ground kind of thing, putting more money towards the investigation. I don't know. It wouldn't. I think
my thing would be like, if you were in that position and you're not like maybe a huge earner or whatever, okay, I don't want to have to be going and doing my job when I could be out looking for my kid. Like, can you just help us with that kind of stuff? Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm out for 18 hours a day making sure that I'm looking in every bush for my child. Please, can you help with my rent? Or, can you help with flyers being printed?
I didn't get that kind of vibe from this request. So, and the fact that they denied it and they specifically said that they were suspicious makes me think they wasn't that kind of request. So on day 24, which was March 13th, 2008, a local man came to the police and he says, "Now, I don't want to get anyone into trouble, but has anyone spoken to Michael Donovan?"
No,
they say he's got different names. He likes to change his name, so you might know him as Paul Drake. And they were saying,
that's a bit...
What?
I was expecting you to be like, he likes to use different names. Sometimes he goes as Mike or Mikey, not
Paul Drake. Apparently Michael Donovan is like the name from like some weird sci-fi TV show in the 80s, and that's why he changed his name to Michael Donovan, but I had no idea who that was, so I just kind of just like phased over that. But they said they would usually see him pretty much nearly every day, but since this little girl went missing, they've not seen him once. So police go and knock on Michael Donovan's door, and they're like, "What? Might as well go and ask. He's in the area. He's not that far. We'll just go and knock on his door and ask some questions." And he had never been mentioned by anyone before. They had no idea who this person was. And when they knocked on the door, there was no response. So they went and knocked on the neighbour's door. It didn't look like anyone was home in Donovan's house, but when they knocked on the neighbour's house, they said, "Well, yeah, he never answers the door to anyone. He's just... like, he won't answer it to you, he won't answer it to us. If anyone knocks on his door, he will categorically not answer the door." So, a bit weird. But then they said, "Okay, well, is he in?" And they said, "Well, if his car is there, he'll be in." And sure enough, his car was there. There was like this silver Peugeot. It was so difficult for me to not call it a Peugeot. I call it a Peugeot because once my friend called it a Peugeot and I thought it was hilarious. So now I always call them Peugeots, and I thought I was going to call it a Peugeot.
If you do that on here, you're just going to sound like an idiot.
But he had a silver Peugeot, prized possession, sitting outside
Peugeot.
in his Peugeot, exactly. He had his Peugeot out front. And so he was in the house. I've got a big head, remember that. So then they said, okay, well, have you ever heard anyone moving around? Do you know if he's in right now? Have you heard people moving about? And they said, oh yeah, we've heard him moving about. I'm pretty sure he's in there. And they said, okay, have you heard anyone else in the house? And they said, yeah, actually, now you say it, I could hear tiny footsteps like that of a toddler. And apparently the two policemen look at each other and they say, we need to get in there right now. And at this point, they're a little bit stressed because they're thinking, if Shannon is inside, then, and they know that the police are outside, then he could panic, you know? If she's alive, he could kill her, he could hurt her, he could hold her hostage, he could.
And they can't go away for a warrant because anything could happen.
Exactly.
But I don't think they'd need a
No,
warrant.
I don't think they would need a warrant, but they were stressed. So they call back up and they force their way into the house, well, into the flat. So he's got one door at the bottom and then you have to go up the stairs and there's another front door at the top of the stairs. And apparently there isn't a door handle on it. There's not even a lock or anything like that. So they know that it has to have been bolted from the inside. So they forced their way through that one as well. And they waited and they listened and they're taking everything in. The house is like eerily quiet. It's empty. There's not a sign of anyone being there. I mean, there's obviously furniture and stuff like that. It's lived in, but they can't hear anything. They can't find anything. And they just stop and they're just taking stock and they're taking it all in. And then they hear a little girl's voice and it's saying, stop it, you're frightening me now. And they're like, where the fuck was that coming from? Because it sounds like it's in the room, but we cannot see a child anywhere. And that's when they hear noises within the double bed base. So there's a divan bed, one of the ones that you can either lift up or there's like the drawers underneath. And in the drawer underneath this bed was Shannon Matthews, alive.
Oh my God.
Alive and unharmed. The police say that it was so emotional because they thought that they were looking for her body, you know? They didn't come to this house thinking that they were going to find her alive and well. It was like incredible. I've just got like all goosebumps all over my body just telling the story. It's crazy.
I was not expecting that.
No, she looked fit and well. She was like washed out and a little bit bewildered and I think shocked because all of these police had just come into the house and she was like shut under the bed. But they took her outside, they sat her in the police car and they said, where's Michael? And she said, he's where I was. He's under the bed as well. And he was also on the other side of the bed hiding from the police. And there he was. They dragged him out. He was struggling, he was angry, he was annoyed, and obviously he was arrested immediately.
How did the police not realise
I think they probably...
The little girl's under the bed saying, please stop, you're hurting me.
Frightening,
she wasn't getting hurt.
Right. Well, yeah, I know. I did think that as well.
Where's my...
But they probably... Okay, but you got this girl, this tiny, sweet 9-year-old girl that's been missing for the last 3 weeks. You're probably not even thinking, like, you just want to get her out and you want to... you just want to make sure that she's okay.
I can't believe she's alive.
No. They couldn't believe that she was alive. And, like, well, she was healthy. It's not as if she was injured or anything like that. They say that they think that she didn't know what had been happening. She was completely unaware of everything that was going on. She wasn't being treated badly at all. But anyway, I'll get to that. The police informed Karen that her daughter had been found and they immediately went to pick her up to take her to the police station so that she could formally identify her daughter. So she was only allowed to see her behind glass because obviously they weren't allowed any contact at this point due to contamination of any evidence that Shannon might have had on her body. So she was only allowed to see her behind glass, and basically the interaction went like this. The policeman said, "Is that Shannon?" And Karen said, "Yes."
What?
Yeah.
I'd be like, I don't care. Get your evidence, take her clothes off, wrap her in a towel, and give me my baby.
Like, you need to process her
I'm taking her
right
home
now.
right
Exactly.
now. Process her an hour ago because she's coming home with me. Like, what are you talking about? I can't touch her. And is this your child? Yes, it's my child. And move that stupid piece of glass out the way.
There would be no glass there because you would have smashed it to get to
They are so lucky that woman doesn't give a flying monkey's fart about her baby, because normal parents would be like, if I can't take her, I'm taking your police station. Like, what are you talking about?
And it wasn't just the fact that she didn't care. It didn't seem to care about the fact that she couldn't get to her, but she wasn't asking about how is she, or where was she, or she didn't even ask, why can't I see her? You know, like, there was no reaction.
Was she not,
no emotion? No,
like,
absolutely no concern. It was like she was completely detached from the whole thing. And so, I mean, people were like, what the fuck? And then it turns out they start looking into Michael Donovan. I was in his 30s, but he actually looked really quite old. He had...
Yeah, I got an old vibe of him. I thought he was, like, old. When they were like, oh, he doesn't open the door to anyone. Like, as though he was, like, some weird recluse shut
He was 30s. Like, he wasn't that old, but he looked old. And they say he had an accident a few years before, and with that he had learning difficulties, but they say that he had an IQ about half the average of the average person. So he was, you know, definitely not the sharpest tool in the shed. They said he was a bit of a loner. His silver Peugeot was his prized possession.
It sounds like you're going to say pubes, and that's why I can't take it seriously. His silver pubes were his prize.
Probably that too, let's be honest. And it turns out that Michael Donovan was actually Craig's uncle.
Oh, it's a setup.
But
they've done something.
Despite it being Craig's uncle, the police had never heard this name before. They'd never mentioned him. They'd obviously done this extensive family tree of everyone involved.
And he wasn't in the forest.
He was not in the forest. And when he gets to the police station, he says, go and arrest Karen.
I don't even care what she's done. She's such a knob face. Go and arrest her. Yes. Like that poor sweet baby girl. Go and arrest her.
Exactly. So he basically, when he's being interviewed, he keeps on saying no comment, no comment, no comment. But he tells his solicitor to read out this 3-page statement where he says that Karen was the one who had organised the whole thing. He never mentioned his nephew, Craig, but he did say that it was Karen who was the one that had threatened him, saying that he would get beaten up if he didn't do what she said. She would burn down his flat. Yeah, I don't know if he was easily manipulated due to this kind of cognitive impairment that he had suffered, but basically he was saying that it was all Karen's fault and she was the one who had manipulated him into doing it. And
it sounds like he would be if they think that he's actually got 50% of the IQ of an average adult his age. Makes him sound like he's more maybe childlike or...
Yeah, I do get that. But then there's other things. So wait 1 second. Let me just finish that bit. So with the... They were also saying that they were going to, once the reward money got big enough, so right now it's at 50 grand, and they were thinking, oh, that's pretty sweet. They were going to halve that reward money by basically saying that he was just going to take her for a walk around town and then be like, oh my God, I found her. Wow, would you look at that? Claim the 50 grand and then split it. But I don't know how that works in terms of a family member finding the lost child in question.
Especially when you speak to the child and they go, where have you been? And she's like...
with him the whole time. Yeah, it's stupid. But what...
Would you not be a bit confused when at Christmas your kidnapper turns up?
But, I mean, she knew him. Apparently Shannon knew this Michael Donovan, and she would have interacted with him. That's why she got into a car with him, you know? Like, she just thought that she was, like, Uncle Michael had gone to pick her up after school. It wasn't She didn't think anything weird of it. But police
These people
find
are gross.
CCTV of Donovan over the last 24 days since Shannon had been missing, trying to track his movements and his whereabouts. He's been out and about. He fills his car with petrol. He goes to the chemist. He's going to the shops. He's buying Shannon clothes. He's buying food and treats. And apparently, it seems like he's really trying to take good care of her. He's even taken.
So she hasn't been assaulted or abused
nothing
in any
like
way.
that. So he even took her outside on at least 3 occasions, twice to go to the park at both quite when it was dark outside, so nobody would recognise her. But she always apparently had to stay hunched up in the back of the car. But it seemed like he genuinely did try to take care of her. He didn't want to hurt her. He didn't want her to be deprived in any way in his understanding of it. But even though he implicated Karen, they didn't have any evidence to connect her. There were no phone conversations during this period. There were no communications, absolutely no evidence whatsoever. However, Shannon was not returned to the family home. There was a protection order that was put in place immediately. And although the whole community were being like, why is Shannon not home yet? Why have we not seen Shannon? Why Karen, where is your daughter? Like, she wasn't giving any information. She wasn't giving anything back. She just
sounds like she was better off with Michael.
Tell me about it. She just seemed as if she was so detached from it, and she was just like, I don't know, like, what? She just seemed to not care. So there's this one video when Karen and Craig were first seen by the news after it was announced that Shannon had been found, and they're standing outside the house and looking super solemn and sad, and Karen looks over her shoulder behind her, and then when she looks back, she starts smiling. And it's because her friends were in her house telling her to smile. And she had to be told to smile because this was a happy time. Your daughter had been found. Like, weird.
She's like the one in the however many millions. Like, she is every parent's dream, every parent of a missing child's dream. That is the last tiny dot of hope that they hold on to.
And she's...
that they're not dead. And she's just kind of like...
Yeah, oh. Exactly. But then, like, Karen and Craig kissed in front of the camera, didn't say a word, and then just walked back inside the house. Just all very weird. And a day after Shannon was found, they then threw a house party to celebrate. I can't with them. I can't.
And she's currently under an emergency protection order, so she's with what, foster parents or something?
Yeah, exactly. So she was found on March 13th, and on the 17th, Shannon was still not home, and they said she was not going to be going home for the foreseeable future. And on this day, the police called a press conference, and they say, after considering all of the evidence, we believe that there is sufficient evidence to charge Michael with kidnapping and false imprisonment. They also interview Karen. She continues to deny everything. Michael is still saying that Karen had offered him money to look after Shannon. He said that he didn't know what had been going on, but that she just said, I'll pay for you, and you just have to look after Shannon for this amount of time. But again, there was no evidence.
That's obviously bullshit.
Oh, yeah.
Like, he knows that's not true, because otherwise why would you have hunched her over in the back of the car? Why are you taking her to the park?
And when there's like a whole manhunt out for this child, you would go to the police and you say, oh, funny,
I'm not saying I believe Karen. Yeah, I'm not saying I believe Karen, but I'm just not buying that he was like, oh, I was just babysitting for a week.
Well, yeah.
Like, no, you weren't.
No, but with no evidence, Karen is free to leave yet again. They have seized all of the home computers, and around 2 weeks later, evidence was found on the computers, and they discovered child pornography. There are 140 indecent images. Craig is arrested, and...
Can I just say we're not allowed to call it child pornography
What do we call
anymore.
it?
Child sexual exploitation material, or CSAM for short. The reason being is that pornography is linked to something that's like consensual. And a child can't consent to it. So it's child sexual exploitation material, or CSAM.
Okay, well, I'm just going to call it 140 indecent images of children.
That's fine. But I do think we should leave that in there. It's a good learning moment.
Okay, but I'm not going to...
Because I only learnt that
But I'm
recently.
not going to get cancelled for calling it child pornography.
No. Literally, that's how everyone is like learning about it at the minute.
Okay, goody. That's interesting. That's good to know. They said that.
And I do get it.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Like,
yeah, the reasoning behind that, 100%. I completely agree with that. They say that this wasn't related to the case of Shannon's abduction, but it would just kind of added even more suspicion onto Karen. She'd been living with like a guy that was, yeah,
Ew.
yeah.
Pedophile.
Yeah. And then 2 of Karen's friends confront her. They get the family liaison officer to join. They basically all sit in the family liaison officer's car, and they're basically just saying, you need to tell us the truth. Like, we're here for you. You need to tell us what happened. And she finally says, I did it. I did it. And she starts crying in the car. She's then arrested and she's taken to the police station. And this is when she says she had left Shannon with Donovan to keep her safe, because she wanted to leave Craig. So she was saying that she had asked him to help her leave Craig. She was saying that she didn't love him anymore. She wanted to leave him, but she didn't know how. And so she wanted the kids out of the house to be able to basically have this conversation. But they were like kissing on camera and crying about how they were each other's rock. And it was like, it just wasn't believable. Nobody believed it. She was saying that.
And more than that, you were surrounded by an entire police force looking for your child. And at no point did you ever say, while you were in like a private interview, please help me. I'm scared. I'm scared to leave. I've put my child here. Go and check she's okay. Please remove the other children from the house. I want to leave this man. I'm scared of it. You didn't do that at any point, and you just let people go through this whole big song and dance while you're having house parties.
Yes, exactly. And considering how much money went into this search for her daughter, like millions of pounds went into searching
and applying for help from the Madeleine McCann Foundation.
Exactly. Gross. But then they were saying that she had made a plan with Michael Donovan, and then that she'd either forgotten the day that she was supposed to be leaving Craig, or that she'd changed her mind. And so then when Craig came home and asked, where's Shannon? She said she didn't know what to do, so she just phoned the police and pretended that she was missing, which seems like really drastic.
Everyone's logical backup.
Drastic choice.
Oh, I couldn't pick her up from school, so your uncle's collected her. I'm going to get her in half an hour. Or, oh my God, you're right. Quick, call the police.
Yeah, there's so many things that I would do before. That's like a big lie. Before committing to that level of lie. And the whole time she obviously knew that she wasn't missing at all. When they were searching Michael's scratchy head. When they were searching Michael's flat, they then found in the loft, he has like this loft hatch. And in there was like a big rope that was hanging down, and it had like a big loop on the end of it. And they gathered that when he left, he would tie Shannon to this loop so she could only go to certain parts of the house. And so she could go into the living room and watch the TV, but she couldn't get to the windows. She could go to the bathroom, but she couldn't access the front door, because this whole tether system restricted her movement and where she could and couldn't move throughout the house, which I think is absolutely like ridiculous. But I guess it's because he wanted to leave her alone, because he wanted to go out and buy her like food and look after her, but he also didn't want her to leave and shout out the windows to say that she was being held captive or whatever. They also found that she had been drugged. They took a urine sample to show that she had been drugged within the last 36 hours, and they had found Travalis and Trimazepam, which, I mean, Travalis is supposed to be like a travel sickness.
Sickness, yeah. But it makes
exactly. And they said that they didn't think that there would have been enough for her to make a 9-year-old like drowsy, that she wouldn't. I don't know, she wouldn't.
Triazepam, though, is a painkiller, and that's quite strong.
Oh, fair enough. Fair enough.
It's like diazepam, I'm sure. I'd have to
Yeah.
check, but I'm sure it's like a muscle relaxant painkiller that would make you like
Yeah, but I mean, she'd definitely be
sleepy.
drugged within the last 36 hours, either way. So,
Yeah. Maybe it's just to make her more docile,
yeah.
like not fight back. Like she's not unconscious, but she's not kicking and screaming.
Yeah, exactly. So 25 days after Shannon was rescued, Karen is charged with the perversion of justice and child neglect. And in April 2008, they're put on remand. Karen then changes her story and says it was actually Craig that orchestrated the whole thing. And although he was found guilty of having these indecent images, he didn't serve any time because he had been in remand for God knows how long. And so they said, you basically served your time in remand.
Yeah, you know, getting like having indecent images on your devices or whatever does not get you as much time as you would think.
I know.
I was so shocked listening to a podcast the other day. A guy was found with like thousands of videos, images, and he got like 6 months.
No way!
Oh, awful. I mean, that was in America, but yeah, apparently, I thought it would be like 20 years.
Okay, 20 years is probably a stretch considering you don't even get that much for rape.
No, that's not my fault. Rape should be 70 years, so... But I just think, like, those children have had to be raped and abused in order for those indecent images to be taken. So you are essentially a part of that.
For sure. Yeah, no, these people... Yeah. Oh, God. And it's like those... No, I'm not even going to liken to anything because it's not... There's nothing like it at all. That's not okay. So during the trial, Donovan and Karen Matthews, didn't look at each other. They didn't show any emotion. They pretty much just kept their heads down the entire time. The prosecution was saying that it was all financially motivated, that she saw all the money given to the Madeleine McCann case and she wanted the same attention. Karen pleads not guilty. She said she was forced to take the blame by Craig. She said that she was scared of him, that he would rape her, but these claims were never proven and Craig was never implicated for anything to do with this crime at all. And so...
Did they? But he must have known.
I never could find anything about that at all.
100% he did.
And so during the trial, they still didn't have any forensic evidence linking Karen to the kidnap, and that is what they wanted because they knew for a fact that she must have had something to do with this, you know. And she'd admitted to say, and then she'd taken it back, so they just wanted evidence to show. And so in the house, they find a note. It was a handwritten note, and it had rules on it. So these rules are stay quiet, don't stomp your feet, don't go to the windows, you can watch the TV, but don't ever put the volume above 8. Things like that. There were probably like 5 or 6 rules on this piece of paper, and at the bottom it has the initials IPU, which apparently was something very specific between Karen and Shannon, which meant I promise you. And it was almost like it was just a little note from Karen to Shannon to say everything's going to be okay because Mum says, you know. It was that kind of thing. And so that was...
And because babies are so trusting. Like, if Mummy says it's going to be okay, then Mum says it's going to be okay. She's enough.
And I don't know if I couldn't find anything to say whether or not they had matched the handwriting of Karen to this note, but that was pretty much the one thing that what's the word, that connected...
Did it have maybe like...
Connected her directly to Shannon being kept in this house. Go on.
So it didn't have like fingerprints?
No, I didn't see anything about that. It was just, I only ever saw the presence of the note and the fact that there was this note written. That was relevant.
So she's still in prison?
No, but wait a minute. So obviously they did the urine sample showed within 36 hours that she had been drugged. But I don't know if you know about the hair samples, that it can actually show long term. So if you had taken, I don't know, heroin 5 years ago, they could cut your hair and they could see that 5 years ago.
I think it does have a date,
I mean,
though.
obviously,
it is like within a year
oh
or
no,
something.
no, it's still, as long as you've got your hair, that's for, like, obviously this hair might be from like a year ago. So as long as that hair is still attached, obviously as soon as I cut that off, yeah. Didn't you ever watch Brainiac? No? Okay, then.
I thought it had like a thing as well, but yeah, I'm sure
this hair sample showed that Shannon had actually been drugged for the last 20 months. And so she had been subject.
She was being drugged
She
at
had
home
been
as well.
subject to deliberate sedation since she was 7 years old.
What?
Yeah, and so
why?
I couldn't find any information as to why, but obviously the jury found Karen Matthews guilty
of everything. What's she being found guilty of?
Everything. She was found guilty of child neglect, perversion of justice. I don't think that she was found guilty of kidnapping, but Michael Donovan was also found guilty of kidnapping, and they were both sentenced to 8 years in prison. 8 years. That was it. That's it.
You know they won't do.
Well, they only served half of their sentence, and that was in 2008. So they got out 12 years ago. Since their release, since Karen's release, she changed her identity. She apparently cut and dyed her hair, and then once she was spotted outside some like residence that she was living in, she'd completely changed her identity since then. But now she's like 40 something, and she's dating a convicted sex offender. Like, what kind of person are you? Can you just like get your life together, please, and just stop being scum? For God's sake. But all of her kids,
please tell me
all of her kids were taken away from her, and she never saw any of them ever again. Michael Donovan also only served 4 years, but he went in and out of a mental health unit, and he died just a couple of years ago. He was 54 years old, and he died from brain cancer while staying in the mental health unit. And apparently Karen Matthews cheered and yelped and like screamed with happiness when she found out that Michael Donovan had died.
Yeah, he was manipulated.
Karen is still denies the whole thing. She's saying that she never knew anything. She's saying that she was wrongfully convicted, and that she didn't do any of this.
I don't believe her.
She obviously was found guilty. She served a prison sentence. It is what it is. She said, apparently, I'm not Britain's worst mum. I didn't kill anybody. From the start, I didn't know where she was. Others were involved and I didn't have a clue. You can't kidnap your own child. I know the truth and I wasn't involved in it. I still have nightmares thinking that it's all going to happen again. I'm not buying it either.
No, I'm not buying it. I do also feel a bit sorry for Michael Donovan. Not that sorry, but I do feel sorry for the fact that I do think he was taken advantage of. It sounds to me like he
was manipulated, yeah.
He was manipulated, yeah. And I think she specifically chose him because she would be able to manipulate him, because he was somebody who did have cognitive impairment, somebody who did have learning difficulties. So that's why she did it. And I think that is the sickest kind of human being, because you're just a bully and a manipulative person.
Yeah.
And 4 years... I hope those babies are all okay and well away from you, and you never go anywhere near them again, and do us a favour and don't have any more children.
Preach it. So Shannon Matthews was taken into care, and she was given a new identity and a new family. There has been a lifetime reporting restriction on Shannon Matthews. So nobody, even her best friend, never saw her again. There's a special order in place which prevents anyone from contacting her ever. Her grandparents, however, Jude and Gordon Matthews, spoke to the Daily Mail in 2017 and said that they had seen a picture of their granddaughter, who described her as beautiful.
I don't like that.
What, that nobody saw her again?
Yeah, I think there are some people who should have, like, I thought, like, the no reporting was like, okay, don't put her in the news, give her a new name, etc., etc., etc. But let the grandparents be in touch with her. Do you know what I mean?
I mean, I get that, but then as soon as
Make
you let
it
the
illegal for the
grandparents...
press to do it. Don't punish people because the press are shit.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of... I
she
can
lost
see both
everything.
sides. Well, yeah, exactly. And she was able to build her life with the help of these nice people that have adopted her. That I wouldn't want to be reminded of what had happened, of my mother.
But your best friend and your grandparents. But did she get a say in it? I just don't know how I feel
that's
about
the thing. You have no idea. You have no idea what her life has been like since. You have no idea. I mean, you like to think that she would have been well protected and that she would have lived a wonderful life. But I'm sure if at 26 she wanted to contact her grandparents and she wanted to contact her best friend, then she could. But
shit, is she 26 now? We are
26
so old
now.
Well, Shannon Matthews, if you're out there, you're not Shannon Matthews anymore, and I applaud you for that. So yeah, I am actually really happy with that case because she was found alive. But I hate the adults. Like, stop having children if you don't want them.
Yeah, I don't know. It was like almost like they saw this whole Madeleine McCann and they were like, oh yeah, we can do that.
Yeah. Thanks for that one, Chicken.
Thank you.
Why did you think I'd heard of it? Because
I saw the name Shannon Matthews and I thought, oh, I don't know anything about this. But then as soon as I heard the story about her being found under the bed and her mum being involved, I recognised it.
No.
Never heard. Interesting.
Never heard.
I mean, I find that wild because I actually found it on a Reddit thread about crimes that didn't have enough media coverage, which I thought was bizarre because this must have been huge. Like, well, I mean, in Yorkshire it was definitely huge because loads of people were looking for her. But the fact that not enough people have heard about this is crazy. But
yeah,
maybe it's because they're not legally able to report.
I find it really annoying that the Madeleine McCann one got so much attention in comparison to others. And I don't think the Madeleine McCann one shouldn't have got the attention, but I think all cases should get that much attention. And also, especially when it was like, oh no, she was snatched out of through a window. Yeah, she was also left alone.
Yeah.
I'd love to cover that case, but we both know way too much about it. And, yeah. Be so interested to know what you think about it.
Yeah, maybe we could do a separate... Okay, maybe we can talk about this after. But follow us on Instagram and TikTok. It's 26to_life_pod and 26to_life_pod on Spotify and YouTube. Thank you for being here. Thank you for our listens and our comments and our likes. And we love you. And bye!